Hello, this is Kenny Lee Burgess, and I'm making this video in response to the many letters I get from viewers who have issues with their hands. Maybe they don't function correctly because of injury or birth defect, and they want to play guitar and they don't know how to approach it. So let's start this off on a positive note. Yes, you can, because throughout history there have been many musicians who have found solutions to their limitations. You know, for one, check out Django Reinhardt. He only had two functional fingers on his left hand, but he played some of the most beautiful gypsy jazz music there is. And actually, a friend of mine who plays this style of music says it's easier to do his arrangements with two fingers than to try to do it with four. See, and there lies the secret to the solution. He made arrangements to fit his needs. You know, he didn't need to play these complicated chords or something like that that you might learn in a standard system. He actually found other notes to meet those chord needs in different places of the guitar. So let's start to look at this, you know, and the first problem for me is there's too many variations of the issues with the hands. So if you have a specific need that I didn't cover in this video, please feel free to write me and I'll give you some ideas. You know, first off, it would be, what hand is it? You know, if it's your right hand, say your picking hand, if you can't do these finger picking arrangements because you don't have enough fingers, why not develop a flat pick idea? You know, because you could actually just do really fancy flat picking just like you can do finger picking. So that'd take a little research, but you could figure that out. Now, your left hand, if by limitations only you could just use the bottleneck slide and you can't use your fingers at all, that's okay, because there's a method which I call old school bottleneck slide playing, where you don't fret any notes. Everything is done with the bottleneck slide. And there's loads of songs that work out like that. Like, for instance, Blind Willie Johnson's Motherless Children. Motherless children got a hard time when the mother's gone. Motherless children got a hard time when the mother's gone. Okay, so that's the thing, in a sense, there is that, like, if for instance they tell me, like in finger picking style, that really a good finger picker has a better right hand. He's more rhythmic, and this could work a lot better. So there's another solution. So if your left hand's weak, work more on this picking patterns and getting your right hand rhythms going. If it's the other way around, develop this side better, make this simpler. So now we have to kind of keep moving on with this. So that'll work. That's work. But you know, one other solution is, if you're going to get into this, like, no fretting the note idea, you might even want to look into lap playing, like they do in country, western, or Hawaii music, where the guitarists sit this way on your lap and they play with a bar. You know, that might just be a totally different way of approaching the instrument. But if you're interested in going in this method, the thing would be really is that you kind of have to create your own arrangements, because that's probably where the problem is. You're trying to take sheet music with arrangements that are made for a person with two functional hands, you know, which are already complicated and hard to play, and you're trying to modify them for yourself. So in a sense, what you really need to know is some musical theory. Okay, so how would you go about learning some theory? The best solution probably would be to find a local music teacher, because he can actually see your fingers and hands and know your limitation and actually help you make arrangements that'll meet your needs. You know, because he'd see, like, you know, that chord's too complex, he can't do that many fingerings, but he'd help you understand how to find a substitute for it. Now, to kind of get into this a little bit, why I say you need theory is because, you know, in the West, a lot of the popular music we know is based on the major scale. And then variations of the major scale. So for instance, like I showed before, you know, there's very simple songs like You Gotta Move that are based on these single note lines. You know, you're alternating the bass with your thumb, or playing the bass, and then you're playing these lines like, you got to move, you got to move, you got to move, child, you got to move. For with the Lord, forget So you can kind of apply just these single note melody lines that you learn from scales and make songs up or make arrangements that you hear. But going further with this, like I said about chords, there's these very complicated chords that you can't play. But if you had some idea of theory about chords, like for instance, a chord, a simple chord, what they call a triad, is made up of 3 tones played at the same time. So if you were able to break this into parts, that would give you 3 possible combinations of 2 notes at a time. And these are called double stops or intervals. And they're like chord fragments. They suggest parts of the chord, but you don't have to play the whole chord. Like Tommy Johnson's Big Road Blues. See, it sounds richer and fuller and a little more funky because you're actually playing, in a sense, 2 scales at the same time. That's what's going on there, which you'd learn a little bit in theory. So you learn how to substitute, because you have to kind of understand that the guitar just repeats all over the place. The major scale is only made up of 8 notes, but it repeats all over the place. So you just find different solutions. So, this is really the point I think I should say, is that certainly you have physical limitations, but you're not any different than everybody else with these mental limitations, because most guitarists don't think theory is important. They learn all kinds of scales and chord shapes, but they really don't understand the theory behind it, how it kind of breaks it all down. So, I would suggest using mind over matter. Educate your mind to musical theory, and then you'll, when you sit down and try to figure out what you're trying to learn, it's going to be so much more simpler. But, in closing, I would just say, everybody has problems. If it's not a physical problem, it's a mental problem. So you can find solutions to your issues. And, I'd be more than happy to give you some ideas, because in closing, I'd just like to say one last thing is, most people don't know, but I was raised by my mother in the Baptist church as a Baptist. And later on, like in the early 90s, I became a Buddhist, and as part of my training as a Buddhist, I try to help people, try to alleviate their suffering, because, Lord knows I've had enough suffering myself, and so, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to kind of share something I love, and I want to commend you for just, forging on and enjoying this stuff, because, don't let it stop you. Just enjoy. Take care.